Okay, this is a video for Grandma Burton. We are reading.
Filmed by Emily.
Filmed by Emily, who's being a little crazy. We are reading Sentiments of a British American Woman, Esther de Beret Reed, and the American Revolution, which Emily studied this year in 5th grade.
Which was
And
kind
we'll
of
come back around, I
interesting,
think,
yet
in
weird.
9th or 10th. Okay, anyway, we're going to begin with the introduction. On September 19th, 1780, Virginia Congressman James Madison reported from Philadelphia, quote, "President Reed's lady has been buried this morning. Interred in the graveyard of the Arch Street Presbyterian Church, the 33-year-old wife of the chief executive of Pennsylvania had died the day before, taken off by the dysentery. Her death deprived the fledgling American nation of one of its most public, most effective, and most widely known political women. In the 3 years before her death, Esther de Beret Reed had converted her husband from military to political leadership, participated with him in building a powerful political party, led the Philadelphia Ladies Association in a multi-state fundraising campaign in support of the Continental Army, and politely but firmly debated with General Washington about how to spend the money she and her ladies had raised. In the Sentiments of an American Woman, the political broadside she published in support of her fundraising effort, she gave eloquent expression to the political aspirations of America's new female citizens, while her Ladies Association itself provided the model for public engagement that women in America would employ with increasing effectiveness over the next 2 centuries. Her active engagement in the political world, where by law and by custom only men were members of the state, only men played independent political roles, and only men exercised autonomous political world, makes her worthy of our attention. Her name deserves to be known, and her story deserves to be told. Esther de Beret began life in London, England in October 1746 as the indulged daughter of a well-to-do commercial family involved in the Atlantic trade with America. Her parents, evangelical Christians, were followers of the great 16th century reformer John Calvin, and Esther grew up as a religious dissenter in a nation that was officially Anglican and in which religious and political identity were closely linked. In the fall of 1763, at 17, Esther met and fell in love with Joseph Reed, an ambitious young American staying in London to complete his legal studies and to advance his family's interest. Esther's father objected to their marriage, and Joseph returned home to New Jersey. Then, over the next 5 years, the young lovers conducted a clandestine transatlantic courtship by mail, while Esther in London and Joseph in America worked to change her father's mind and to use the patronage system of the British Empire to construct the economic foundation for their future family. In the spring of 1770, they married, and over the next 10 years, they negotiated a dynamic marriage distinguished by mutual affection, respect, and accommodation. Here, Esther challenged social norms and legal structures that emphasized parental power and pecuniary considerations in courtship, and defined marriage as a hierarchical relationship between a dominant husband and a subordinate wife. Esther and Joseph had intended to live their lives in London, but a family tragedy drove them into exile in America, where they struggled to reestablish their economic base. Her father had introduced her to the intricacies of ocean-going commerce while she was still in her teens. Now, living in Philadelphia, 1770 through 74, she intruded into this traditionally male domain by collaborating in the construction of a complex and lucrative trading network that spanned much of the British Atlantic world. Esther's father had also introduced her to the complex world of patron-client politics in Georgian England, and she employed political means to advance her ends, first in London in the late 1760s and then in Philadelphia. In the fall of 1775, she made a personal political decision to support the American struggle for independence and soon found herself plunged into the cauldron of war. After 3 harrowing years of disruption, disaster, isolation, and loss, she returned to Philadelphia and persuaded her husband to give up his military ambitions and accept political office. She then worked closely with him to advance themselves to the cusp of national political leadership. In 1780, acting in her own name, she launched a barrage of political initiatives that made her, at the time of her death, one of America's most sophisticated, poised, confident, admired, and efficacious public female politicians. Here, as throughout her short life, this bright, determined, self-confident, and skillful woman, slight of frame but strong of will and blessed with a way with words and with people, exercised a suitable command of self, far greater than the law and social norms her time and place seemed to permit. Throughout, however, she voiced little desire to end the existing gendered distinctions between female and male political action, or to assume male public responsibilities or obligations. Rather, she understood politics as part of the process, whereby she and Joseph collaborated to marshal the resources they needed to marry, to create and sustain a love-based, religiously informed family, to seek éclat in the broader world, and to establish the foundation of their own and their children's futures. Esther came of age at the beginning of the conflict between Great Britain and her North American colonies that produced the American Revolution. That world-altering conflict structured almost every phase of her life and bedeviled her at every stage of her evolution, from a proud young English lady to a mature and ardent American wife, mother, patriot, political operative, and publicist. Esther's story thus illustrates and illuminates for us the contingencies and human cost of the complex process whereby the English-speaking residents of British North America became a separate people, a new nation. After her death, Esther largely disappeared from our collective memory of the founding. Today she is recalled, if at all, for her notable political activities in the summer of 1780. Even those who are aware of her extraordinary success in those few months, however, know little of the life that brought her to this prominence, of the political context that made her behavior so noteworthy, and of the character, personality, values, and lifetime accumulation of political skill and understanding that prepared her to become, by September 1780, one of the foremost political female founders of the American Republic. Esther's story falls into 4 broad categories. Chapters 1 through 4 focus on her initiative and management of her courtship in the years 1764 and 1765. Chapters 5 and 6 explore how she and Joseph, living on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean, first sought to accumulate the political and economic capital that would allow them to marry and live in London, and then retreated into exile in provincial America, 1766 through 70. Chapter 7 deals with her unhappiness in America, her ever-growing family, and the impressive financial success she and Joseph achieved in Philadelphia between 1770 and 1775. Chapters 8 through 10 probe the nature of her decision for American independence and describe her wartime suffering as well as the Reeds' rapid political ascent, 1776 through 80. Chapters 11 and 12 detail her extraordinary political summer of 1780, her sudden death, and the deterioration and death of Joseph, and the dispersion of their children. The coda offers a final appraisal of Esther de Reed's place among the founders in the American Republic. A note to the reader. In quoting from correspondence, I have not tried to make 18th century writers conform to modern prescriptions, but I have corrected a small number of obvious spelling errors. That's the introduction. Hopefully this video makes it to Grandma Burton. And then we will do chapter 1.
Bye.